is since you know a lot about, I mean, you are a brand owner and you've been selling on Amazon for a long time. Do you think everyone's hoping that this is a glitch by Amazon, the whole Nike regate, the Puma regate, all these big brands, you see it all on Twitter. It's a glitch. It's going to blow over. Do you think that is the case? Number one. And then number two, why did Amazon do this now? It's Q4. Why did they do that? Or just your thoughts on it.
Okay.
What's up, guys?
Cool.
Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we have Steve Rolle. He's done over $40 million in sales as a private label brand. We're going to get all into his story, especially private label is definitely a really good option after all the hard gates. I've watched some of his content as well. He has a totally free course, no opt-in or anything. I was watching it before this. Totally awesome. So we're going to get into everything. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. I enjoy doing these.
Cool.
Yeah, so a little introduction about yourself. We don't have a lot of private label guys on, so I'm always super intrigued by you type of guys that build these big brands and sell them, that type of thing. You can start back as far as you want to. We're here. So
Yeah,
we'll
sure. Just so I know, do either of you do private label? Or are you more on the arbitrage wholesale side of the house? What's your stories?
Yeah, so we did arbitrage. I did arbitrage. I don't anymore. We tried to start a private label brand and we failed. We didn't fail. We just quit because I think that, I don't know, we didn't see the bigger vision for it, but now I definitely see it. I wish we wouldn't have quit in hindsight, but you know, hindsight's 2020.
How long ago was that?
Year ago? Yeah, year and a half.
Yeah. So you can get back up and running on that. No problem. No time lost.
We got the time. Maybe we will. I don't know. Maybe we'll be more intrigued after today. That's kind of what I'm hoping for here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give you some background on me. My story starts in the military. I got an ROTC scholarship. I'm a little kid born in the DC area and got out to California because of that scholarship. So studied civil engineering all the way through college. Then I had to join the military and go pay with my blood for the sacrifice that they had done in paying for my tuition. Never went anywhere. Spent 2 years in Fort Knox in Louisville, Kentucky, and then went to Colorado where I was part of the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, that's where I got my first start with Amazon because I got married when I was in Louisville in Kentucky. And my wife was helping her mom out with her e-commerce store. They had some products that they were selling and they thought, oh, okay, I'll get an Equid shop put up and then I'll maybe sell some stuff on Amazon for you. And I was very in tune with how much money she was making because it was all incremental to us. We could live off of what I made as a military officer, but whatever she made was just like spending money. We could go and do whatever we wanted to with it. So she got to the point where she was making $4,000 or $5,000 a month. I thought, this is phenomenal. And then it dropped down to $2,000. And I'm like, what happened? And she's like, I don't know what happened. And so I decided, let me dig into this because I've got a background in eBay from when I was in college. If you came into my college dorm room, when I was 23, I had a little bit of a late start. My roommate and I were bringing in knockoff Jordan hats and New Era hats from China, and we were reselling those on eBay. So it's like the original like arbitrage back in like the early days in like 2012, 2013. And so our dorm room looked like a lid store. You open up the closet and you would just see these shoe racks that were in there. We'd have all the hats in there. We got free prints at the engineering building when we would go to our classes. So we would go and print off our labels every single day when we were there, bring those back, tape them on, go to the post office there on campus and ship out a bunch of fake hats to people. And these weren't even like close to good fakes, but eBay, like the return rate was so low, you could still make money doing this. And so we survived doing that all the way through college. So I kind of knew about e-commerce platforms, but I'd never messed with Amazon before. I took a look under the hood and I saw what she was working on, and I quickly realized why she went from 5,000 to 2,000. There were a couple of big factors that were there just from looking at the data. And so the engineer in me has always loved the data. And I know it's super nerdy and super boring, but people that love the data can do so well on Amazon, especially as they share more and more with us in brand analytics. But at the time, it was just looking at, okay, you sent stuff to Amazon's prep centers, or Amazon's FBA centers, you sold this much more. You spent this much on advertising, you got this result. You stopped doing those things. These things stopped happening. And it started me on this journey to deep dive on what makes a good Amazon listing and what makes a product sell and why does a customer buy something on Amazon? And then how do you get it to rank number one? Being a nerd and being an engineer, my first thought was, well, let me go read some books because I know how to teach myself. I know how to do really hard things. If I can build a bridge, I know I can figure out how to sell something on Amazon. And so I read a couple of books on Amazon's algorithm. I wanted to deep dive and understand that. And I read some books on kind of like the dummy's guide to how to sell on Amazon, but for private label sellers. And I took what I learned and applied it to what my wife was working on. And in the space of a couple of months, those sales went from $20,000 a month. It was $40,000 the first month that I worked on it. And then a few months later, we sold $150,000 on that account. And the deal was phenomenal back then because we got paid 10% of all revenue on Amazon. Because the owners of the business were kind of like, hey, it's all like extra for us. So like, we don't care. Just make some money for yourselves, have fun. They thought it'd be very, very small in pennies. But when they started writing us checks for $15,000 because we'd sold 150K, now all of a sudden everybody started to care. And it was like, oh, let's change the commission plan out. You're making too much money. Hey, you're making more money than we are, and we own the business. And so we had to kind of like ratchet that back a little bit. But the long story short is that we ended up breaking up with that company, started our own Amazon store. My wife got pregnant. We were having a baby. So she kind of jumped out and it was just me. And I grew that other Amazon store to, we got from 0 to around 100K a month in probably the first 12 months. And then from there, it was off to the races. That store still exists today. It'll sell $1 million this month, and it'll do around $12 million in sales this year of brands that we own in the hospitality space. And so what people really know me for today on Twitter is that I post about selling by the pallet, because we have these big pallets of shampoo that we'll sell to a hotel or to a property management company. As cool as that is to sell a pallet on Amazon, and who knew you could even do that, that's about 1% of what we do. The normal sale that we do on a daily basis to hundreds and hundreds of vacation rental management companies or individual Airbnb owners who have one room in their house that they rent out, or they have one Airbnb and they just want to have enough shampoo, conditioner, lotion, body wash, and bar soap to supply their guests with the same experience that they get in a hotel. So that's my long story short. I came into Amazon because of soap. I've sold $40 million worth of soap on the platform, and now I have other brands that I sell to in different categories that we're getting involved in. But that's how the story started for me, and I'll pause right there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually saw the palette pictures. I'm like, how is that even possible? I guess my thought would be a company would never go to Amazon to buy a pallet. They would find another way to do it. But I mean, obviously they do. So talk through a little bit of that.
Yeah.
That's a common thing that companies would just look up pallet of stuff on Amazon or whatever?
See, it's not common. And this is an instance, I think, of everyone who wins on Amazon is early. And then there's everyone else who comes in, and there will be some people who still win and do okay, but the big winners on Amazon are always early. And so I learned that lesson a long time ago, that if I want to come into a category that already has a ton of competition in it, and I want to compete, I'm going to have a much harder time going up that hill than if I position myself in a category that I know stands to grow in the future. Grab a huge amount of market share, and then let Amazon grow the business for me as they add new customers for that clientele. I did it back in 2018 with hospitality soap. There were very few people who came to the platform. Again, it was like $20,000 a month in sales. There was one competitor who also sold it. But why was that an opportunity? Because nobody wants to sell topicals. Nobody wanted to sell the consumables that get put onto somebody's body because you had to have special certifications to do it. There was other barriers of entry that were there. So I wasn't hopping into a category to sell phone cases along with everybody else. I hopped into a category where it was like, man, sales are slow. And I remember this. When I first started selling soap on the platform, I was still in the military, and I would go to the gym for lunch. And I used to be a basketball player, so I just go shoot around by myself, and there'd be nobody in there but me. And every 10 or 15 shots, make or miss, I'd run back to my phone and like swipe down to see on Seller Central, did anything sell? And nothing had sold. And then you'd swipe down and do it again. You go shoot some more hoops and swipe down again, nothing had sold. And then you go shower, you get in the car, you drive back to work, you swipe down, and it's like, boom, $500 sale. And it's like, I know how much money was made on that $500 sale because our margins were through the roof. We had almost zero overhead at all. It was just buy it, brand it, position it, and sell it because there was no other competition. And so when you position early in a category, it allows you to grab that market share. And then the special thing about Amazon is that it's a search engine. So people have to see you to buy you. And the only thing that distinguishes your brand from somebody else's brand is the look of it and how many reviews you have. Price plays an important role once you have a lot of competitors on there, but in the early stages, what does it look like? And are the reviews good or are they bad? Well, in B2B, it's a lot harder to get reviews than it is in B2C. So some categories that people want to come in and compete on, like phone cases, you got someone that has like 70,000 reviews who's been selling the new iPhone case for years and years and years. And yeah, it's an easy product to make, to distinguish, to brand yourself, but you're competing with someone who has such an insurmountable amount of reviews that you just don't really stand a chance unless you get lucky. And I don't want to play the lucky game. But if you position early in a category where there's not a lot today, then you can grow with that category. So if it's so hard to get reviews in B2B and nobody wants to really position there because of topicals, that's where I wanted to position for the long term, because I was already hearing Airbnb is going to start forcing people to provide these hospitality shampoos and bar soaps in every single property. But that hadn't happened yet. Now, still a little bit sick on this end. So once I knew that that was coming down the pipeline, it's like, this is the perfect place to lean in and dig in. So we launched what was 2 brands and turned that into almost 15 brands of the same product. Half of them had the same formula inside of it. We just changed the tube. And the thought was, hey, whatever geographical location you live in and whatever the decor is in your house, we're going to have a solution specifically for you to come and buy your soap from us right here on Amazon. You like 2-day shipping, you like 1-day shipping, it's all going to be right here for you on Amazon, very available. And by the way, we're going to charge you an arm and a leg for it, because we're solving this problem for you of you want to buy hotel soap, but you don't want to buy 1,000 pieces of it. The whole industry only sells it to 1,000 pieces at a time. Our solution was, we'll repack it for you at the manufacturer. Everybody posts these pictures on Twitter about how they're repacking stuff and they're breaking it down and sending boxes in. And yeah, I've done that before. But you know what's even sexier than that is when your manufacturer does all that work for you, because it's your brand that you own, that you can just tell them, package it like this. You pay the exact same price per unit with maybe an extra quarter per case for them to repack it, instead of you doing all that labor yourself. Again, one of the benefits of doing private label. But I think that whole repackaging process added so much value that we got to add what I call a convenience tax onto the price of these products. So when we used to sell full cases of it, we would have a case of shampoo that we paid $20 for, that we would sell it for $80. When we started repackaging it and adding that value and the convenience tax on top, that case that we paid $20 plus an extra quarter for repacking was now selling for $160 instead. You're literally 8xing your cost of goods sold coming in. Think about the profit margins of what that looks like. And to this day, on those types of categories, we maintain that high price that we have, which is like way more than we spend on it and way more than our competitors are charging for the same product, where our gross margins are 87% across the board of the products in that store. 87%. Now, I'm not including Amazon fees in that, but 87%, the cost of goods sold is 13%. When you include Amazon fees, of course, that comes down, but it's a great place for you to start, especially when your AOV is not $20. Your AOV is like $100 instead. So you're playing a cash flow game from the very get-go. Okay, my point in this, and I'm coming back to your question, it's really hard to get reviews. We've added value for people. We positioned somewhere that nobody else wanted to be. Now that market's expanding very rapidly. Now, to this day, the average SKU count or reviews is probably 250 for the killers. The ones that are absolutely killing it have 250. But everybody else who comes in is like, oh, I'll just do some Amazon Vine. I'll get my 30 reviews. 30 next to 250. I know it takes you 5 years to get from here to here. So that's a moat that's right there for anyone who wants to come in. Now, the other thing is that our manufacturer, who is in China, also sells on the platform against us. They're half the price, as they should be. Tell me why we sell 3 times more than they do. Volume, not revenue. And it's because brand matters, reviews matters, positioning matters, and having 15 different options for a customer to come in and choose to solve their problem that each have 250 reviews on them that take 5 years to get. People will break up with one of our lines and say, I'm never buying from your company ever again. This stuff leaked on me. And then they'll go and buy the other line that I own instead. And it's like, you think you just pulled a fast one on me, but in reality, like, you just bought that from me again. You just don't know it's actually me. Is it overkill to have 15 brands? Sure. But it was a great decision for us to blanket page one of these keywords that we're going to grow in the future. And so now this idea comes up of, okay, we understand that positioning early is how you win. Coming back to your question now. Sales by the pallet today is 1% of what we do. And how many people are actually coming to Amazon and looking for pallet sales? The answer is not that many. But I believe in positioning long before the boom actually comes. So here's some data for you. Amazon Business is a startup inside Amazon. They'll be the first to tell you that. They did $35 billion in sales in 2023. That's startup status for Amazon. To put it in perspective, Amazon.com did $600 billion in sales in 2023. Now, my Amazon business rep told me that their internal notes indicate that Amazon believes the Amazon business revenue will exceed and surpass Amazon.com in the next 10 years. I'm like, if I do my math right on that, that's a 20x opportunity. Well, I've seen that play out before because I remember when the soap market was $1 million and now it's 20, and I know what my sales are on that. So let's position where Amazon Business is going to be. Well, who's going to buy from Amazon Business? Who are they competing against? Walmart Business, Costco Business, these huge, I call them distributor killers. That's who these companies are. Who else is hopping into this game? Lowe's is hopping into this game. Home Depot has HD Supply to hop into this game. Everybody wants to be the bulk supplier because that's where the longevity and the consumables that supplies are coming all the time to universities and businesses and hotels and colleges. Those businesses are who everybody wants to go after. Those are the big whales. Outside of government contracts, those are the whales. So Amazon Business is going after the whales. Now think about this. If you see commercials, when you see commercials for Amazon, outside of Q4, Black Friday, and Prime Day, it's always an Amazon Business commercial. Why is that? Because they expect to go 20x in Amazon Business. So the question I asked myself 18 months ago was, what if I believe that it's going to 20x, what should I be doing today to position for me winning 20 times more business just by letting Amazon grow? And when I think about who those businesses are that Amazon's going after, and I isolate that and I say, okay, what's in my catalog that they would buy? Okay, it's pretty easy. They would buy trash bags. They would buy soap. They would buy cleaning supplies. They would buy bar soap. I can put those onto a pallet today knowing that nobody's going to buy it. No one in their right mind is going to buy this. It's just too much product. I told my team, we've got 400 SKUs today. A month from now, I want to have 800 SKUs. I want every single SKU that we sell to be available by the quarter pallet, the half pallet, and the full pallet. And then I want to mix some stuff up so we're adding value by making a full pallet that has maybe 10 cases of shampoo, 10 cases of conditioner. Let's throw some makeup remover wipes in there and see what people are interested in. I told them, watch this because nobody's going to buy. But we're doing the work today because they're going to come in the future and buy from us. And by laying the groundwork today and by attaching these pallet listings to our regular listings to share the 250 reviews that we have on our regular listings, no one will ever be able to catch up. Because when our other competitors that sell wholesale against us, when we sell to distributors, are like, hey, dude, Amazon's a big opportunity. Let me go in there. What they're going to find out is that you're starting at 0 reviews and you're not going to vine a pallet. I got 250 reviews on a pallet because I thought ahead enough to position for where the world's going to be, not for where it's at today. So we launched these pallet listings. A week goes by, sell nothing. And I'm like, that's what I expected. That's fine. The team was a little bit demoralized, and it was like, that's what we expected to happen. No one's going to buy it. But tell me why the weekend goes by and we sold 2 pallets, $5,000 a piece. And it wasn't the SKUs you would have expected. And guess who bought the pallet? It wasn't a hotel. It wasn't a university. It wasn't an office building. It was a homeless shelter that bought a pallet of soap. And you're like, of course, like that makes sense. I never would have thought to go after that customer if we hadn't put the pallets on Amazon for somebody else and let Amazon's 180 million Prime members come in, do their shopping, and decide what they wanted to actually purchase. So I know that in the future, we're on our way to selling $50 million a year on Amazon, and the majority of that is going to be sold to businesses of the products that we currently sell today. But the reason we're going to win is because we were super early, we were prepared, we looked at where the world was going to be, and then Amazon brought us a bunch of customers that had nothing to do with what we thought they were going to be buying for. And the ones that we thought were going to buy our products will come to the platform to buy it too. Because when Amazon does for logistics on pallets what they did with 2-day shipping, right now, every distributor in the world that's shipping stuff out, they got a couple box trucks, and they add value because they can provide them with, I'm right next door to you. When you need the stuff, let me know, I'll come bring it to you. Well, what happens when Amazon brings 3-day pallet fulfillment nationwide? Do you need that distributor and their higher pricing? Or can you just come right to Amazon and buy it from them instead? And Amazon's fulfillment centers push that out to you. So the world's about to change and no one's paying attention to it. But the ones that are positioning by the pallet on Amazon for Amazon business. A very long answer to your question, but I wanted to give you all the context of that because I think it's important that people know.
Yeah, it's awesome. That spawned like 15 questions, but I'll let you get the next one, John. But I want to ask one thing. Can you break this down in a very simplified way of like how the structure of this works? So originally I thought maybe you have one brand. I'll just give like an example, but like it's Dove soap or whatever, and you have stuff like that. But it sounds more like you're like Kellogg's and you have all these different cereals within this bigger thing. So how's that, if you can make it as simple as possible, like how the structure of this works? It's not just one thing. It's like, how's that exactly work?
Think about it. I think that was a great example. Kellogg, umbrella company with 15 brands inside of it that mostly sell the same thing. Some of them are positioned to make it look like it's the same company. Others are positioned to make it look like it's an entirely different company. Depends on the day. Right now, if you go and look at the brand store, they might all be the same brand story on there of me and my wife and my little kids who are on that listing. But we change that up from time to time. And it's because we've realized that even though we know who owns this stuff, people don't know who owns this stuff. It's like not knowing that Procter & Gamble owns Old Spice and also owns like Dayquil and NyQuil. Like you don't know, you know the brand, but you don't know who the actual owner is of it. And so what we want to be is the owner that sucks up all of the sales from these brands that are coming in. And so it's a very simple structure for us. The way we're set up, it's all even under mostly the same LLC, and it all just flows up to the parent, and we operate that way. And so the main Amazon team operates all brands as if they were the same brand.
I'm sure this is like super long term, but would you think about like, what's your big goal with it? Is it to sell this umbrella company for like $1 billion, or is it like to piece it out and sell it for like, here's 15 mil here, or 20 mil here or whatever? What would be the ideal thing? Or is it like, I'm just going to stay Procter & Gamble forever?
Well, it's a great question. I think the way that we positioned that we have, it does enable us to sell off small pieces of the pie when it makes sense. But keep in mind, we're talking about the Amazon side of the business today. We also have a whole wholesale side of the business too, that is about 2/3 the size, or it's 2 times the size of the revenue that we do on Amazon. So look, initially, the goal was just build the business and let it cash flow. We have wildly cash flowing products that do very, very well for us, and we built a great moat around them. But I'd be remiss if I didn't let you know that my mind is always on the M&A. The mergers and acquisitions is where the millions are made. You want to make money from cash flow? Sure, make $1-2 million a year, fantastic. But you want to get an 8-figure payday? Like you got to be in the M&A game to make that happen, or be really, really good and surgical about what you do. Like if we're selling $50 million a year, like I say we will, we'd be making 8 figures from that too. But the M&A is where all the action's at. So my mindset is so much not on what were our sales today, what are our sales going to be, but what's the enterprise value of our company based on the sales that we have, not just today, but over the last 12 months. Because I think it's so important that Amazon sellers stop acting like we're a side hustle. No, this is a legitimate business. As a legitimate business, you're a CPG company. Let's understand what this business is worth on a daily basis and how that fluctuates, because then you can start to derive your KPIs. What are the things that you should be spending your time on that will drive the greatest increase in value to your enterprise value, to what your business is actually worth? Well, that can really only be the case if you've deep dived enough to understand what your business is worth and understand how it gets valued and how that changes over time. So 2 years into making my first business, we broke away from the main company. We were actually under contract to sell that first business for $6 million. We had started that business with about 100K, and the industry had boomed the way that we thought it would. And I got some cold feet and thought, hey, like I'm making great money, but I don't have staying power in this. I don't have control over all of this. I was worried about Amazon shutting me down at times for things that I had done. And so that stress, it forced me to want to go and look for an offer. Well, I remember the thought process of thinking to myself, hey, I'm probably worth about $1 million. You know, like we're selling a good amount of product right now. Things are going pretty well. And I just brought my longtime business partner from another business on board. I told him, look, I'm going to give you 20% of the business. You're going to buy in for some, sweat equity for the other. But the business is worth $1 million. And we were both kind of like, I mean, that's aspirational, but is it worth $1 million? Let's find out. 2 months later, after I gave him and sold him a piece of the business for 20% at that valuation, we got our first formal valuation done by the investment bank that was going to take us out to market because I wanted to sell. And I remember I was on a plane to Tampa when I opened up this email, and it shows me, we believe you're worth around $3.8 million. And I'm like, what have I done? I've given away 20% of the business to someone at a much lower valuation. Now, he earned every penny of what he got. He built this with me side by side. And so I joke when I say that I was happy for him. I was happy for us, because all of a sudden it's like, dude, we're millionaires. Like, we're self-made millionaires. Like, all of a sudden, like, these two little kids that grew up in DC, and now, like, we built this thing together. Okay, 3.8 million. That's just what the investment banker said. We go out to the market. I hop on calls with 12 different brands. I'm learning how to give the right pitch to get them excited about the opportunity of what I've built, what they can do with it after I'm gone. And offers came in. One was for $2.5 million. That was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, let's move on. Went through the other calls, and like nobody else put an offer in. It was just kind of like, I guess it's not worth what we thought it was worth. I do one final call. It's with a public company called Ethereum. They sell on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol ATER. 98% Amazon, just like the rest of us, a little bit of Walmart and some Shopify. They were doing a deal for us. They saw the value of what we would become in the future. And so when they put their offer in, it was for $6 million today. We basically have 60 days to do a handover with them, and then another $6 million on the back end of it, which is like $12 million. But this $6 million is contingent on them growing the business the way that I thought that they could. Now, the funny thing about it is that if I had done that deal, it would have played out. That would have been a $12 million, $6 million plus $6 million earnout that we could have exited with. But the reason we pulled out of the deal was because we sat back and thought, it's like, man, we're already making $1 million a year right now, and we've already done all the work. This market's only growing from where it's at. Why wouldn't we just sit here, grow it more, add new products to it instead, and turn this into, instead of a $6 million, let's turn it into a $50 million exit instead. So we got all excited about that, pulled out of the deal, and we ended up merging with our supplier who was upstream from us. And there were a couple people in that company that wanted to retire, who were getting older. And so I'll be the next generation of new talent and leadership in that company. They only sold wholesale. We only sold on Amazon, perfectly integrated. We brought the two companies together. And by doing that, we took what was a $6 million valuation on day one, and just by tying our profits to their higher multiple, we actually arbitraged more than $5 million of value just by doing that merge. So that was a no-brainer for us to say, let's stay involved in the business, let's keep on cash flowing, but let's attach ourselves to a higher multiple, because we were getting valued at 6x. They were getting valued at 8, 9, 10x, depending on who you talked to at the time. The whole idea was that we would merge the companies together to sell, because everybody wanted to sell. Well, 2.5 years has gone by and nobody's sold yet. And we're still enjoying doing this thing at this point. Now, I'm more or less just an investor in the company today. My day-to-day position in the company has transitioned to everyone that we brought in and trained, because when we got the staying power of merging with our supplier, it was just me and my business partner. We hired a team of 18 more people. And so today it's a team of 20 people that's working on the mission of taking $12 million in sales all the way to $50 million a year in sales. So it's still an M&A game because we want to sell and we want to be able to have that big payday. Who doesn't want to do that? But the conditions have to be right because we're doing very well. So it's biding our time, but building bigger each time, making ourselves a bigger acquisition target along the way. So again, a long answer to your question. We are open to anything, and we're actively in M&A talks right now, have been for the last 2 years. There's always something going on, whether it's for the full company or a piece of the company. It's just the e-commerce side of the business or just the wholesale side of the business. But we're actively engaged in that because that's where you make your money, is in that big exit. But we're very happy to cash flow today with what we're building. And we've got a great team that's doing the day-to-day work on this brand, and they're doing a phenomenal job with it.
Wow. That's crazy. I've watched some of your content, and you said a lot of private label. I mean, this is what, when we started ours, went through. You say not to use Jungle Scout, Helium 10, and I think you have like 5 things that you're looking for, or people should be looking for. Do you want to kind of go through that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not a Jungle Scout hater. I do come across that way, and I probably called myself a Jungle Scout hater at times. There have been times that I have. But I think that if you start with a research tool and you find your data on what you should do for your product, you're setting yourself up to fail. Here's why I say that. If you use Jungle Scout and Helium 10, whatever opportunity you see, everybody else sees. You may have some special search query that you put in that gets you these amazing results, but other people are going to see that eventually. And so what's the story that we see time and time again? I found a niche, I found a hole in the market, I built the product, a perfect solution for it, and by the time I launched it, there were 4 others. They're just like mine. I thought I could patent my idea, but they're all just like mine. See, everyone's seeing the same data. Even if you get lucky enough to launch and no one else has the same product that you have, wait till you go out of stock, because you will go out of stock. If you're a new seller, you're not going to go buy 10,000 units of inventory. You're going to buy 1,000. You're going to buy whatever the MOQ is. That's what everybody does. And so when you find all this data, you go put an MOQ order in, you sell it, and you're successful at selling it. The amount of research that's out there now, that people can not only see the opportunities, but they can also see your sales. And when they see your sales and you go out of stock, they say, well, I can do that. And I have more money than he has. So I'll do 4 colors of it instead of just the one. By the time you come back in stock, it's like your product had a life cycle put onto it. And that's one of the things I hate about the whole approach to Amazon. People are willing to get involved in products that have a life cycle. We're used to it from arbitrage, because on arbitrage, you find a deal, like that's the skill set. And when someone else finds that deal, it's a slow race to zero. Same thing with wholesale. If the distributors want to sell to more people than just you, if you're not exclusive with the brand, it eventually is going to go down to zero. And then on top of that, like in private label now, you've got people who are on a race to zero because they're all building the same types of products. I love using the Himalayan lamp as an example, because back in 2020, in like the heyday of private label, before COVID happened, the days of Kevin David doing commercials about give me $10,000 and I'll show you how to build an Amazon brand and generational wealth, everybody was looking for that easy product. And the Himalayan lamp was a very easy target for them to go after, because they thought, I'll just slap my brand name on it, get the same white label one version, and then like I'll get all this money in sales. I remember looking on Amazon and searching for Himalayan lamp, and hundreds of options showed up. All the same hero image and just a different brand at the beginning of it, because everyone was being sold this dream of Amazon's making millionaires. It's so simple. Here's what you have to do. That's why I'm against using research tools like Helium 10 and Jungle Scout in order to like pick the products that you want to find. What I prefer for you to do instead is to look at where there's opportunity that not everyone is seeing. So I like to use the criteria of, you got to have a product that sells for $40 or more, because I want you to have some room in there. I want you to look for consumables if you can. That's important to me, that you find something that's consumable. And I want a product that has repeat purchase capability. That's important to me because like someone's going to come back and buy it again and again and again and again. The last thing is Amazon Business. Can this product conceivably be purchased by someone who's buying on Amazon Business? because that's where the world is going. And I want to position where the world is actually going, not where it is today. So if you meet those 4 criteria, I think that you're actually giving yourself an opportunity to find something new that not everyone is already in. And then there's tens of thousands of products that fit that criteria. Maybe you hit 2 of the 4, or you hit 3 of the 4, but you're separating yourself from just what's the easy data. Jungle Scout makes it easy for people to just pick a product and then run with it, and then they wonder why they fail. Going the harder route is a lot better. Now, in the free course that I have, I teach a system of solving a problem instead of building a product. And for the 4-step criteria I just gave, solving a problem is a much better technique than the 4-step criteria. You want the easy path, Jungle Scout, mid-tier path, 4-step criteria. You want to go the hard path, solve a problem, and solve a problem for a specific person in mind that you know shops on Amazon. So I teach in the course, and everyone should go to that course. It's free. There's no gimmicks. There's nothing like that at all. And look at section 1 and section 2 of how we select products that are going to win on Amazon. And I show you how to fill out a questionnaire. It's as boring as it sounds, of the ideal person that you want to sell to. And when you know what they're afraid of, what they care about, how they're motivated, what's super important to them, all of that information now becomes a GPT. And you can tell ChatGPT, act like this avatar now. And we're going to begin a conversation of me brainstorming what I want to sell to customers on Amazon. And you're the ideal customer. I promise you, if you come at it from that standpoint, you're now using ChatGPT at a PhD level instead of down here where everyone else is like, act like my ideal customer and come up with some products for me to sell. Like everyone does that and they get this super generic response. And like, why am I not successful? Take it steps further, dig into a specific avatar, specific persona, as they call it, and then talk with that persona about the problems that they have that you can build a solution for, and then introduce your 4-step criteria. That, I think, makes a lot more sense to do. Now, where I love Jungle Scout and I love Helium 10 is to validate your product. Once you've selected the product that you want to move forward with on Amazon, let's validate that by making sure that there's enough search volume for you to be successful in that. Maybe people are looking for it and they're not finding it. That's search volume that we care about. Maybe that they're searching for it and there's only a couple solutions that are there. I want you to be early. I don't want you to come into these industries that are so inundated with other brands that are already successful, because you have to get lucky to win or be an expert marketer to get amazing brand awareness. But if you're early, then you stand a chance to grow with that market. See, everybody's trying to get rich quickly. Nobody wants to get rich the long way. The long way is the hard way, but it's not that hard if you just stay steady and do the things you're supposed to do day after day after day. They want to get rich in a year, and that's not how the private label game works. If you want to be successful in private label, you position somewhere early, you solve a specific customer's problem, and then you market the hell out of that for years and years and years. And over time, you gain brand awareness, even if it's just on Amazon. You don't have to become a household name to make $10 million. But position yourself on Amazon to win, where Amazon knows they put your product in front of people, those people buy, and that's how you win in Amazon's A9 algorithm. It's actually very simple.
You're so high level with all this stuff. How long have you been on social media? Or I feel like I haven't saw you for years and years, or maybe you have been. I've just missed it.
No, I haven't. And it would be embarrassing if I'd been there and you'd miss me. So I'll answer your question. Look, I had my head down building my business for 5 years. I wasn't coming up to talk about it. I was coming up for air. I was focused on doing the things to grow the business and grow the brands. When I got to a point that I felt like I've handed off all of my responsibilities to my team and they don't need me anymore, now I felt like I was qualified to come out and start talking about it. Now, I talk about the 2 people that are successful on Twitter, on social media. It's the person who's already been there, done that, and knows how to do it again. And then there's the person who's actively doing it and telling you what they're doing and building in public. I like building in public, but I'm much happier that I'm building in public now after having built something already, replaced myself with employees. See, I mastered it first, and then I delegated it to my employees, and then I stepped away to go on social media and talk about it. I'm not saying that's the perfect way. It's just the way that I decided to go. But what I recognize is that a lot of people don't have the skill set of just putting their head down, getting rid of all the distractions, and just doing the work. for years. Because I promise people that if they do that, when you come up for air, you've built a multi-million-dollar business. But if you want to get distracted, and I see it so much today in people that are involved in arbitrage and they hear about like, oh, there's new apps for this, and I can make money over here in TikTok affiliate or the Amazon influencer program, they just go back and forth. They don't put their head down and get good at one thing. Now, part of the reason for that is that they're positioning in things that are very short-term in nature. Arbitrage is short-term in nature. Amazon affiliate has to be short-term in nature. We can't all make $3,000 a month making videos, and Amazon and TikTok affiliate and influencers in general is getting very saturated. UGC is the latest saturation that's happening. Everybody's going into it. Everybody's bad at it. And now all the brands that we're seeing success are moving away from it. Because why? Because everybody's doing it now. And that's not how marketing works. Marketing is when you're doing one thing and getting attention with it, and everyone else is doing something else, and you stand out from the crowd. So once the crowd comes in, the real marketers leave. That's what's happening with UGC right now. I think it's the death of UGC. We're watching it in real time, the same way that we watched death in real time. Like we're seeing right now the death of arbitrage, sometimes the death of wholesale. People that don't have staying power in the relationships that they have on Amazon are getting their feet cut out from under them right now. And they're saying, my business has died. Well, no. Did you have a business? Did your business ever have staying power, or did you position somewhere that was short term? Again, put your head down in a long-term position and focus just on that. That's my advice to people. Like, talk less about it on Twitter and do more of it. Then come up for air, tell us what you learned. You have these insights to share because you cracked the code on things that other people tried and failed at. You can give them these insights, and it's relatively easy, I would say, to build a following when you have value to share with people that helps them. It's a little bit harder to get them to say, hey, I'm trying this, follow me, I'll show you the failures. And people just want to show the wins. They don't really show the failures. They say they're going to show the failures. They never actually follow through on showing the failures. It's a little bit too embarrassing. The ones that do, I respect the hell out of. But again, I've only been on social media for a year. My first reel I ever posted was in January. My first LinkedIn post was in October. My first Twitter post was January 2nd. I don't have a ton of followers, maybe have 15,000 across platforms. I certainly hope for that to grow, but followers is the wrong metric. Are you having impact on people? That's the question. Is your content helpful to people? That's the question. And can you learn how to scale that out by adding more value to people and making your content more engaging? Now, let's be real. Amazon is not the most interesting content to make, but if you can find a way to do it in a way that engages people, then you can be successful with that. And there's a few people who are out there who are the ones to follow, who have found a really cool, sexy, dynamic way to talk about Amazon. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't end by saying Amazon to me is not the end-all be-all. Yes, I started my career there, and it's where I found my first success. But the moment I uncovered the M&A game and the multiple arbitrage game, it motivated me to say, hey, Amazon has been a springboard to trampoline me from where I am to where I'm trying to get to, which is business mogul status. And yes, I happen to start with Amazon, but I don't want to live and breathe and die Amazon FBA because it's just a journey to get started. It's a way to win and then leverage that to the real game. Because if you're not playing the real game with the banks and larger businesses who are buying up other companies in the private equity game, that's where you win. It's M&A. You make the millions, you're buying up businesses. That's what I want to be involved in. And so I'm studying right now private equity. I'm going back to my roots. I'm reading books again. Let me understand how these guys made billions so that I can apply that to make hopefully tens of millions. And eventually, by 50, I want to be a billionaire. So let me at least have the same knowledge that they have, that they're writing down in a book of all the stuff that they've learned, and I can read it in 2.5 hours. Like, why would I not do that?
Yeah, 100%. I want you to speak a little bit more on the saturation stuff that you were talking about, because I quit Amazon a year ago because of like literally all this stuff you're saying. I feel like a lot of people thought that I was, I don't know, coping or whatever. And I just was trying to explain, I try to explain all the time how this saturation stuff works in all these industries. And like, if you get into one of these short-term things, like logistically, the only way it can go is getting saturated just due to the nature of it. But can you speak more on that and like how that actually works? Because I think right now, we have mostly arbitrage listeners. I bet a lot of people are pretty scared right now about what arbitrage, everything that's going on. Maybe they didn't listen to me for the last year, but obviously you're a bit more high level with this business stuff. So maybe they'll listen to you. but explain kind of the short-term nature and why this stuff happens. Like, you don't have to trust us. We'll explain to you how this actually works.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, there's only a finite amount of demand for products. Amazon is huge, but the gurus have been telling you now for X number of years that you can just sell the same product that already has demand, that is everyone else has access to, and you can build yourself a successful business. Successful business, I say. Okay. What I see happening is we're increasing the supply of sellers, but who's increasing the supply and the demand of buyers? That's just Amazon. Okay, how fast is Amazon growing? 10% a year? I don't know what it is. Like, you guys might know the numbers better than me. But how fast is the number of sellers selling the same exact product increasing? Because they've been told it's easy. And so what I hate about it is that the guru says this is a proven business model. You're like Walmart. Walmart goes out and they buy stuff for one price and they sell it somewhere else. And it makes sense to people who haven't really thought through it or haven't seen it for their own, haven't seen it for themselves. And that's frustrating to me because, like, people are just being duped out of money. And then the account deactivations start happening. And you're like, okay, I've been saying this. Like, is it okay to say I told you so at this point in time when everyone's kind of like frantically screaming and like, I got $200,000. I'm 20 years old. Like, first off, dude, congrats, you had $200,000 in the first place. Like, you're fucking killing it. You can go do it again. But yeah, your whole life is now tied up because you positioned somewhere where you were not in control. You were never in control. Amazon can turn you off whenever you want because, frankly, what you're doing, you aren't allowed to do. People say that, oh, we operate within Amazon's terms of service. Amazon terms of service says that me as the brand owner, I must give you express written permission to sell my brand on Amazon. How many people have a letter from Nike telling them that they can sell Nike shoes on Amazon? Nobody. Right? So everyone's coming into this. They're ungating themselves with these tools and tactics, and it's all these hacks that they're using to ungate themselves in categories to go sell stuff that they aren't allowed to sell. And then they're crying when their business gets turned off by Amazon because they were doing what they weren't supposed to do in the first place. It's frustrating to watch. And it's even more frustrating when it's not even what they're selling that gets them hung up. It's the item that they use to ungate the category that they bought from a guru, that item is taken down and takes hundreds of accounts that use that item to ungate down with them. And now you're trying to prove to Amazon that you legitimately bought the product that you never bought, that you just said you bought and had so that you get ungated in the category. And they're like, I never sold this product. I'm like, that's not the problem. You told them that you were going to sell this product to get ungated in the category that you weren't supposed to be selling in the first place. It's so problematic. So you're not in control. The saturation is that we're only increasing the supply, we're not increasing the demand, and eventually everyone's going to make less money. We've touched on the fact that every deal you find has a life cycle, every product you find has a life cycle. And look, if you're going to make a couple $1 million in the process, go for it. But don't act like you were entitled to what you had because you positioned in a short-term model that was not sustainable from the get-go. But here's what I know. If you position somewhere that is a long-term model that you have staying power in because you own what you sell and you own your position, then now it's just between you, time, and your marketing for you to be successful. You have time to figure this thing out. I hate the fact that some of the smartest people get duped into arbitrage or wholesale before they ever hear about private label, and they say, oh, I'm working towards that. Okay, the best time to start for you was like today, because you think and you start to feel safe. These Amazon sellers walk on the edge of a cliff, and then they forget the cliff is there. And then when they fall off, as they're falling down to their death, they're like, oh my God, like what's happening to me? It's like, you knew what you got yourself into. You knew that this could happen, but you got more and more confident that it was just never going to happen to you. Oh, bad things only happen to other people. Well, for arbitrage sellers, I promise you this, it's just a matter of time before it happens to you. Look, as a brand owner, I know how this process works. It might be Amazon that gets you, but guess what? it might be me that gets you. Because if you want to come and sell one of my brands and say, oh, you sell to distributors, I can find it cheaper than what you're selling on Amazon for. There's arbitrage to be had. Therefore, I'm going to come in and get it. Guess what? I have Amazon Project Zero, which makes me a bit of a god status for my brands. I don't have to go to Amazon and ask them to remove your listing and ding your account. I can do it myself. I log into my portal, I find your listing, and I say, nope, get them out of here. That's it. And all you get is an email that says, like, you've been accused of counterfeiting our products or whatever that is. I hate to use that because we have another method that we use first, which is sending a letter out legally. And like when it comes to that point, I know the harm I'm causing to someone who is using Amazon for their sustenance, for their livelihood. So we always try to start amicably by sending a letter and making threats. And then at some point, I have to get your attention. And Amazon gives brand owners the power to grab your attention and say, yep, you're counterfeit. Boom, you're gone. Okay, now you have to prove to me or to Amazon that what you bought isn't counterfeit, which means that you have to show the full chain of custody all the way back to me for what you purchased. That's very difficult to do when you bought from some site that you learned how to do it, who bought from somebody else, who bought from a distributor, who then bought from me, and get chain of custody of all those invoices just to prove that you're not in the wrong. The problem is that the burden of proof is on you as the arbitrage seller to prove that you didn't do anything wrong, not for Amazon to prove that you did something wrong, because Amazon is not in the business of trying to arbitrate between like my brand and you and whether or not you can sell it. I'm the brand. I say you can't sell it. And Amazon says, okay, you can't sell it. Prove to me that you bought it the right way. I'll get your money back at least. But it's how you position is so important. And people breeze past this. They don't pay enough attention to it. And then they get burned. But if you go somewhere that you see everybody else rushing in, odds are you're going into saturation. If you go somewhere where the guru tells you, hey, this is easy. Anybody can do this. People on Twitter saying, like, I went from 0 to 10,000. Anybody can do this. It's so simple. Odds are it's going to get saturated. When people pour in, unless the demand is increasing at the same rate as the supply, that's the definition of saturation. And on Amazon, that's rampant. The same thing happened in drop shipping. The same thing happened. You name it, that's what's happening. And you see the mob on Twitter moving from one thing to the next. They're just oversaturating whatever they get involved in. And so I hinted on the fact that I see this happening in UGC right now. The days of a brand using influencers, people to influence their audience who would come out for one or two brands are so far gone, it's ridiculous. Because now everyone is an influencer, everyone can be an affiliate, and everyone's pushing somewhere between 3 and 15 brands. Because all they care about is getting that sale. It's just they're spamming their entire feed. So what happens is that the feed that used to be grandma and Aunt Sally and the friends you went to high school with, who were like, oh, like you came out for like these Nike shoes, fantastic. Like I'll go buy some Nike shoes. Like you must feel very passionate about that. Now everyone, every time they open up their Facebook feed, they don't even scroll through to see what their friends and family are because it's just a bunch of UGC content. I can get that on Reels. I'll just go watch Reels instead. So no one respects the influencer because there's no influencing happening anymore because every single post is an influence post. There's no authenticity that's happening. This is the death of the influencer. If you didn't hear about this, you heard it here first on the Side Hustle podcast. The UGC is dying, if not already close to dead. And the ugly head of it is this TikTok shop affiliate. And yeah, there's people making money, but I promise. Every time something gets oversaturated, there's still people making money right before the demise. It's called the echo effect. The echo effect is when the smart people have already moved on somewhere else. Those marketers who are like, UGC ain't working anymore, let's move on. And they're even telling people like, this isn't going to work anymore. But it hasn't trickled all the way down, that echo effect, down to the people who are coming in who say, hey, this is still a great way to make money. So they're still seeing, hey, so-and-so is making $10,000 a month doing this, and I should go and do it too. And every stay-at-home mom who's like, hey, why would I do an MLM? I'll just do these influencer programs instead. The masses start pouring into it. Everyone gets into UGC. Now this echo reverberates, and all of a sudden, brands that need the influencers aren't getting sales anymore. The smart marketers have been gone for a long time. A few people were still making money and everyone else was still aspirationally coming in to think that they could do it too. You've seen this story in every single pyramid scheme that's ever existed. The bigger it gets, the more the people at the bottom cannot make money because there's just not enough demand for them to get that money. The people at the top will continue to win because they were there first. So if you want to get involved in a multi-level marketing or a pyramid scheme, do my method and get there first. Okay, win at the top. But if you're not first, if you're not early to the ball game, you are part of the saturation and you will make nothing and you will probably end up losing money in the long run. So that's my take on saturation.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
that's probably. I don't hear a lot of people say that kind of stuff. I feel like I say it, and it's just like I sound like a crazy person because I'm not as successful as you. But this is the same stuff I say, man. I love to hear it from somebody that's smart. It's like makes me vindicated a bit on my own. So I love to hear it.
Yeah, hey, great minds think alike. Okay.
I've never heard it from the other aspect. It's like you have more like sellers coming in, but I've never heard the other side of it. It's like, well, the demand for those products is not going up. So now there's just it's not the same way. So a question. So everyone, I don't know, it should be interesting that you've only been on Twitter a year and kind of what you're seeing because it probably looks absolutely crazy. We've been on Twitter for, since we started, so we've seen it change. What do you think about the argument everyone's saying now? Oh, don't worry, you can't sell Nike, you can't sell Puma. There's a million other brands out there. Like, you should just work, you should do wholesale, brand direct wholesale, and work with the small and mid-sized brands. Because that's the new, what's being said. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'd be interested in your take on it.
Well, I mentioned I was on with Corey's group last week. And I think that what's being taught in that group right now is go for the smaller brands because there's a much higher chance that you'll exist longer to them. And I gave them a very clear message on that. I don't know if I'm supposed to share it or not because it was in the mastermind group, but I'll share it here. My message to them was, if you're going to be a wholesaler, be a value-added wholesaler and negotiate early on before you get results for that brand an equity stake so that effectively you become a private label seller of their brand. Because if you don't do that, just understand the brand, if you're a wholesaler, the brand, if you're arbitrage, always has to have a need for you or your business goes away. So the moment that they don't need you anymore, you don't have a business, which in my opinion means you never had a business. You were just a middleman between them and their customer. Now, what is the trajectory of these brands to realize that they don't need you? Until you get someone like me going out with a consulting offer, which by the way I'm doing, to brands that says, hey, right now you think Amazon is hard because you've been told that the fees are too high and you don't want to mess with that. So you like to sell your stuff by the pallet to distributors and resellers and let them handle that last mile delivery. Because I get it. You're a 3, 4, 5 person company. You don't have the bandwidth to start figuring out a brand new sales channel. Even though you hear about 180 million Prime members, you've already got that figured out. Okay, what's your profit margin? How much money are you making? Are you operating at 20% net? Because if that's the case, what if you could operate at 20% net, but the revenue was 3 times what your revenue is today? And see, that's the only sales pitch a brand needs to hear for them to realize, because again, we have all the data, we have all the research, and I can come to them and say, how much of your brand did you sell on Amazon last year? And they go, I can pull up my books. Hold on, let me look at this here. Yeah, I sold $450,000 on Amazon. I go, no. See, $450,000 to you is $1.5 million of Amazon sales. You got paid on the 450. I'm telling you, you should get paid on the 1.5. So you made 20% profit margins? Okay, you made 80K. That could have been 300K if you sold it yourself with the same profit margins. And so I've done that. I can show you how to do that. And a consulting offer is now born. Oh, well, we don't want to go and learn this stuff ourselves. Okay, hold on. I'll do it for you for 6 months, and then I'll hire you a team to do it the same way I did it for my own business who only sold wholesale the first time. You see how simple that becomes? Where it's, here's a problem that you have. you're missing out on dollars that you're just giving away to a kid in his underwear who took one course and is now selling your stuff that he bought from a distributor. He buys it for $80, he sells it for $150, does nothing for it. That's easy. Is that person adding value to you as the brand? When I come to them and say that, you know what the answer is? How much does it cost to work with you so that we can recoup that and build our own team in-house? Because when I tell them you need one person in the States, probably a 3-person team in the Philippines, if that, depending on how many SKUs you have, and all of a sudden now, without you doing anything more than you do today, Mr. Brand Owner, you are now receiving 3-4 times the profits that you were getting before from the Amazon sales. Now, the beauty of all of this is that I can show them, this is how much your brand sold on Amazon last year. Are you aware that it sold for that much? Okay. All the things you think it took to sell for that are not true. It's actually pretty simple. In fact, these resellers built this for you. Now, as a reseller, you hear me say that, you should be shaking in your boots, because what you didn't realize you were doing when you were buying from a brand that had 1,000 case pack and tearing it down into 10 packs and 100 packs and 500 packs is you were proving to the brand, these are the SKUs that you should be selling to be successful on Amazon. Now, as a brand, all I have to do is say, hey, what's your ASIN? Copy, paste, add inventory. Your business is done as a reseller. It's that simple. They just don't know it's that simple yet. So any reseller positions there is now competing with my consulting offer. And for the advice that Corey's given, I think it's sound. It's a way for you to extend the timeline and the life cycle, because the smaller brands are not the ones that Steve's maybe starting with. Maybe I'm going to the bigger brands who are out there who are saying, hey, you sold $20 million on Amazon. Like, did you realize you're leaving $2 million on the table that could be in your pocket instead? So is the life cycle longer there? Yes. But at the end of the day, this world becomes easier and easier. There's a generation of people who are retiring and selling their businesses to private equity firms or people like me who buy them and are looking for ways to increase the profits without having to increase the sales. See, that's the trick. Can I maintain the same amount that I'm selling and just have higher margins in it? Well, I might have just 2x the business. By doing that, I can flip it off and make millions in the process. So when someone comes in with that type of knowledge, that is what makes it unsafe for you to continue to do arbitrage and wholesale. And just realize you are building up my business by continuing to do arbitrage, because you're building the playbook for me to come to the brands that you buy your stuff from and tell them, hey, look, I'm not going to come to like every other agency and say I'm going to do all this amazing marketing and I know Amazon's algorithm. And look, I know that stuff, but I don't want to promise somebody that. Here's what I can promise them, though. Today, you sell this much, and here's the demand for your product. That's probably not going to change. And if it moves one way or another, plus or minus 10%, like that's outside of our control. We'll do what we can on the marketing side. But these are guaranteed sales of your brand that you're only appreciating a little bit of the profit margin from. When the brand hears that, your wholesale business is dead. So this is a forewarning, by the way. Steve's consulting business starts in February. So there will be webinars, there will be a sales team, and we're coming for your brands.
Well, I'm interested. You haven't mentioned this yet, which I'm surprised. And maybe I'm about to give you some good marketing material, or maybe you can prove me wrong on this. But I said a long time ago, I would take these consulting things with OA sellers and RA sellers. And I would say, stay away from beauty, stay away from grocery, because that stuff can hurt people. And as soon as your product hurts somebody else, or the brands find out that their fake products are hurting someone, they're going to shut that stuff down immediately. That's already happened with beauty. I was saying that 1.5 years ago. So what do you think about that? Is that what you think another direction things are going to go in is, oh, wow, these kids are selling fake stuff. It's hurting customers, and they don't know they're buying from some kid. They think they're buying from us. It takes one TikTok and probably ruin your brand.
Yep. That is half the sales pitch right there. Yep. On one side, I have to entice greed of someone to make change. Hey, you can make 3 times the money you're making today. The bigger thing that I found brand owners care about way more is the customer experience and the brand reputation. Because if you can control that, you do. And when you realize that a lot of things happen, not only are you as the brand warranting the product, regardless of who sold it, it's got your name on it, they're coming to you if they have a problem. So you want to control that supply chain to make sure that everyone has a good experience. But you also have concerns about pricing consistency. You guys have seen this game for a while. What happens in these price wars? 1 penny, 1 penny, 1 penny, 1 penny, 1 penny, 1 penny, all the way down to zero. So now there's no consistency of the price for customers who get fed up with your product because they don't know that it's not coming from you. The customers are not savvy to know who they're buying from. They see 37 offers and say, well, which one's the cheapest and gets here the fastest? I'll take that one. I trust this brand, so it's going to come in great condition regardless. Well, when it doesn't, and then when they go back to buy it again, if they had a good experience the first time, and it's $20 more, they're kind of like, well, what the fuck? Like, why is your brand fluctuating so much all the time? That marketing experience is even more important because resellers inherently don't care about your brand the way that you do if you're a brand owner. I'm just trying to move some product. I just want to get a return on my investment. Why am I going to go pay a bunch of money to go make a beautiful listing for these products? I know it's got a life cycle. I'm moving on to the next one after that. Also, and more importantly, I got case study after case study that shows that resellers rarely, if ever, will invest in Amazon PPC advertising. How do brands grow on Amazon? Through PPC advertising. So if you want your brand to grow, you need to have someone selling the product on the platform that actually wants to grow your brand and is willing to put their hard-earned dollars out of their pocket, give it to Amazon and say, market this to people. Let's increase the supply. Let's increase the demand and not just increase the supply of sellers. I'm going to market and make the product audience bigger. The case studies that I have show for the brands who were not advertising and just selling through resellers, get this, 10x the size of the brand 5 years later. 10x, because they weren't advertising and then they were advertising and doing that over time. See, the brand owners are not savvy to Amazon today. They know people are having a rough experience, but they're making decent money. They're making 20% margin, and it's like, hey, I sell a pallet here, it's there, it's easy for me. But when you have a consultant that comes to them and says, number one, your customer is having a terrible experience with you on the largest e-commerce platform in the world. How do I know that? Because there's 37 sellers on that listing. I know they're having a terrible experience. And number two, you're only getting 25% of the profit that you should get because it's being given away to not people who are smarter than you, who work harder than you, but they took a $200 course when they were sold on this is super easy. We're suckering these brands in and you just grab their product and sell it to somebody else and like laugh all the way to the bank. Arbitragers are making a fool out of brands. The brands just haven't felt that yet because there's that go-between. There's that distributor between them and the brand. So this consulting offer is to expand their vision and open their eyes to the fact that customer experience you care about. Hey, by the way, no one will ever care about your brand more than you do. That means, shouldn't you be the one to approve the listing that goes on Amazon? Shouldn't you approve that pricing structure and have it never change unless you implement a price increase and there's a strategy associated with that? Shouldn't you decide how much money you want to put into the advertising campaigns to grow that brand over time? Look, I think Amazon 5 years from now is going to only have brands selling on the platform. That's my bold prediction. I don't think there's going to be reselling anymore. Part of it's going to be warranty issues, but part of it's going to be that brands find it so simple to do what other people have done for them. There's going to be enough offers like mine out there saying, hey, why would you give any profit away to anyone? You don't have to do the work yourself. I'll hire the team for you that will come in and do this work for you. So I might be a fool on that. Pull this tape back in 2029. And let's see if it's not still brands that are selling on Amazon. But I believe that to be the case because why wouldn't it be? Markets get more efficient over time. And a perfectly efficient market on Amazon is the brand selling on Amazon to the customers that want to buy that product themselves without having a bunch of vultures and middlemen in between. Now, wholesale's still sexy over here because all the arbitrage is getting taken out right now. But guess what? They're coming for wholesalers next. I'm coming for wholesalers next. If Amazon doesn't get you, I'm going to get you. So you're on a life cycle right now. You just don't realize it. Now, can you make millions of dollars between now and then? I bet you some people can and will. Corey certainly will. He's a brilliant guy. He's going to kill it. His group has a lot of brilliant people. They're going to kill it. But for everyone else who's out there just trying to figure it out and they're not really running a value-added business, you're going to get beat. So why not take that intellect and position yourself where you own what you sell if you want to be in a product business? You're not Walmart. No guru telling you that you're Walmart is going to make you Walmart. Just because you say it's the same business model as Walmart, it's like I have the same business model as Costco. Like I have 3 members. You know, it doesn't. Scale matters. Size matters. So I get stuck on this one a lot because I want to help people out, and I went on that mastermind to go and tell them what I think they should do. But I also know that, hey, like I am making a competing offer that's going to come to the same brands and tell them, like, don't sell to somebody else. Just do this yourself. There are thousands and thousands of qualified, competent Amazon specialists that operate out of the Philippines that make between $3 and $7 an hour who are lethal at what they do. You want to put maybe $100,000 into human capital? 1 person in the States, 3 people in the Philippines, and sell it all yourself? Why not? Excuse me.
I know we gotta let you go in a second, but one last question that I have is: since you know a lot about, I mean, you are a brand owner and you've been selling on Amazon for a long time, do you think everyone's hoping that this is a glitch by Amazon? The whole Nike regate, the Puma regate, all these big brands, you see it all on Twitter. It's a glitch. It's gonna blow over. Do you think that is the case? Number one, and then number two, why did Amazon do this now? It's Q4. Why did they do that? Or just your thoughts on it.
Okay, so look, I'm not for anybody losing money. Let me preface what I'm about to say by saying this. If you're 20 years old and your inventory is tied up at Amazon right now, like, I feel for you. You got sold a bill of false goods and like you're stuck with that and you're hurting right now, and that sucks. But you positioned poorly. Maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe somebody told you that it was a foolproof system, but you're stuck in this today. If you're someone who was operating cleanly in Amazon's terms of service and you have a letter in your hand that says that you can sell the brands that you were selling, you're safe. I've seen that happen. But I know that the majority of you are not. So do I hope it's a glitch for you? Kind of. Like, I don't want you to lose your money. But I also know that you're smart people and you'll move on to something better, and that this will be a great lesson learned. And you're 20 years old. Like, you have your whole life ahead of you. You figured this thing out. Now figure it out next time in a place that has staying power. That would be a great lesson to learn. As much as it would hurt today, that'd be a phenomenal lesson to learn. Now, do I think it's a glitch? No, I don't think it's a glitch. Look at the listings that this happened on. It didn't happen on listings where there was 1 seller. It happened on listings where there were 40 sellers. And I've been on the record this year a lot saying that I think Amazon is actively trying to reduce the number of sellers on these listings because they know it's a problem. The infighting that happens amongst, you don't need 40 people on a listing. That doesn't add value to Amazon's customer. Like, someone explained to me how having 40 sellers on a listing is valuable to Amazon's customer. I can only think of things that will go wrong, not things that will go well. I get having 3 sellers on a make sure we stay in stock, but 40 seems a little bit excessive. I don't think that Amazon is going to hurt in their revenues because of what they've done. Because they took down listings and they left half the sellers there to continue to sell. I think it was calculated. Sometimes it's bots. I don't think this one was bots. I don't think the bots are smart enough to do it this way, this surgically, and only take out some of the bad actors as a warning to everyone. Hey, like, we've got this power. Like, you're here. You're not abiding by what we said to abide by. And our brands are complaining about the experience that you are giving people. Now, what I really think is going on here, and you saw this with Estee Lauder, you saw it with Nike, Amazon is kind of like me. Because if you're an arbitrage seller or a wholesale seller, Amazon is a wholesaler. They want to sell that brand for you if they possibly can. So you got me going out to brands telling them about how people are getting fucked over on their brand, they're leaving profit on the table. You got Amazon reps doing the same thing. They're talking to Nike. They're talking to Estee Lauder and saying, hey, you know, this customer experience is suffering on the platform. Why don't you just sell it to us and we'll take care of it for you? I think what you're seeing right now is a surgical decline of sellers on listings. And what you're going to see is all these brands that people were selling will either be replaced by the brand themselves or Amazon will be the brand that replaces them. I'm so sorry, guys.
You're good. You're good.
One more coming. All right. That's the cold right there. I need some more Dayquil. But I am just extremely confident that this is like a slow-moving coup where Amazon's not coming out as being responsible for it, but they've gone dark. They're silent about it. Like, why are they so silent about this one? I think they stand to gain from having less sellers who don't add value to brands on their platform. And that's what's happening right now.
I 100% agree, man. I've been saying this for a while, and I think that this is what will happen too. I think people think Amazon's just Amazon, but Amazon's coming after Shopify. They're coming after Costco. They're coming after Netflix. If you look at their Prime Video stuff, they're like ahead of the game on that stuff too. I think this brand thing is just, how do we take Shopify's share? We already took eBay's. eBay's dead. How do we take Shopify? And that's making the place safe for brands, easy to use, easy to launch. Nobody's going to steal your stuff like that, and they'll take Shopify's market share, and that'll be it. I think that'll be what happens, just like you said, the next 5 years. I think we'll see it'll be easier to launch a brand on Amazon, but not easy to resell on Amazon, if at all.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, close this out, John. I think that's it. We've maxed out the time here for you, but man,
being here. We'll definitely have to have you back. This was like one of my favorite episodes for sure. Where can everyone find you?
I am Roll with Steve anywhere you look, on any platform, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, across the board, and actively growing socials right now. And I do want to put a plug in for my free course. It's in the bio of all of my socials, so go check that out. There's no payment required at all, and it's great information for all of you whose businesses are dying right now. If you're in a short-term industry, I teach you what I know about how to build for the long term in a way that no one else is doing right now. I think using ChatGPT to a PhD level, which is great for anyone to know as well.
I don't want to blow smoke up your ass too hard, but I think in the next 3 to 5 years, people are going to look back at this and go, "Wow, that was like Hormozy on a small pod." Just the way that you've thought about stuff, man, the way you speak and the way that you think about I see you in 5 years is going to be crazy. I think you're going to be a big talking like head in this whole space. So yeah, very impressive to listen to you. And this is one of my favorites.
I appreciate that. I'm blushing, but I'm black, so you can't see it. So.
Don't forget about us in 5 years when we want to have you back on.
Yeah, you have 10 million followers.
There we go. Hey, next time I'll mandate we do it here in my studio instead.
That's fine.
You got a deal. All right, guys, we're going to call it there. Thanks so much. Like, reply, go follow Steve, go get his course. It's totally free. It's not one of those like bullshit, give your email type of deals. Just like go on. It's on YouTube. I've watched like half of it and it's really good. So thanks a lot, Steve. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.
All right. Thanks, guys. I loved it.